welcome to class. I hope you guys are all doing well. It's been really smoky outside, so I hope you guys have found a way to stay active but stay healthy as well. It's Friday and it's exciting to have a weekend coming up, and I hope you guys are going to do something to either catch up on your schoolwork or relax and enjoy life a bit. Okay? So to get things started today, today is a difficult lesson. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a two-part lesson. So we're going to spend today and next Tuesday doing this. So if you are confused today, that's okay. We're learning a new formula today. So we just have to make sure that we practice until we get the formula right, okay? There will be homework tonight, and then we'll have a different homework next time, okay? So make sure, guys, that we're doing the homework. Adri, can you go ahead and add your last name as well, so that we can have that attendance, make sure, because it's a school policy that we do that. All right, guys. So for my homies that showed up early, they had a chance to take a look at this warm-up. So this is what we talked about last time. So we have to be careful here when we see, so this is in factored form, right? We have two things. We have an A term and a B term. When you multiply two things and they equal 0, we're going to be using the zero product property. Zero product property, right? And product just means multiply. So when you're multiplying to get 0, we're going to use zero product property. And Adri, if you don't know how to change to add your last name, you can just send me a private chat and I will change your last name for you. Okay? All right. So we have A times B equals 0. So one thing I just want to be really careful, you can't just divide both sides by 5x. If you do that, you're going to lose an answer. You're going to lose this answer. So you can't, and I want to stress this again, you can't just divide both sides by 5x. You're going to lose an answer because this isn't linear. And we're going to talk about that going forward in the next chapter. What's linear, what's not linear. Okay? So you can't just divide by 5 on both sides. Actually, this is Algebra B. You guys have already talked about what's linear, what's not linear. So this isn't linear. You can't solve it like a linear equation. You can't just divide both sides by 5. So just remember, zero product property. If two things multiply to get 0, either one or all of them need to be 0. So we're going to go 5x equals 0 or x minus 4 equals 0. Okay? So this is using the zero product property, right? We're taking our two pieces and we're going ahead and doing that. Adri, I really need you to add your last name. Again, if we don't add your last name, I'm going to move you into the waiting room until you do so, okay? And Rebecca, same thing, guys, make sure that you add your last names. So once I do this, once I use the zero product property, I'm going to go ahead and solve. So this is 5 times x, so I'm going to divide. And then I get, thank you, Adri, I appreciate it. If you don't know how to do it, you can just send me your last name and I can add it into your name, okay? So if you just type if you can send me a private message with your last name, I'll just add it for you, okay? And then my other one here, I have x minus 4 equals 0, so the opposite of minus 4 is plus 4. So I'm going to have plus 4, so I'm going to have x equals 4. Okay, so I'm going to have two answers, okay, because I have two factors, right? So two factors, two answers. Adri, this is, okay, we need to get your last name. So this is a little frustrating because now we're losing class time because I have to look up your last name. Do I have an, I don't know, so you could just type your last name, just type your last name. Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, Adriana, okay, just a second, so I got Ortiz. So I will rename you. A lot of people are having issues with this, so I'm going to post something to Google Classroom. Thank you, Adri. I appreciate that, Adri. I will post something to Google Classroom on how to do that, okay? All right. So, all right, thanks guys for doing that. So here we got going now. So that was this first problem. Now the second problem is a little bit more complex because this was really nice. It was already in factored form, but this isn't in factored form, right? Our two terms are separated by a plus. So first thing we want to do is factor. And we're going to do that by taking the GCF, the greatest common factor. So what I'm looking for is if I look at 3 here, okay, and I look at 21, so I might check, does 3 go into 21? And it does. If you don't know if it does, you can just take a calculator and you can go 21 divided by 3 and then you get 7. Okay? So I'm going to say 7, it can be pulled out. And then I'm going to take a look at, so this has 5 x's and this has 4 x's. So the most they have in common is 4. So I'm going to pull out an x to the 4. And this is my greatest common factor. Okay? So then remember when we're doing a greatest common factor, we're basically dividing everything, right? So we have to go back and figure out, okay, so if I just divided everything by this, oops, why did I put a 7, guys? This is a 3. Okay, that's my bad. That was my mistake. So that's a 3, right? Because 3 goes into both of them, right? So what times 3 gives me 3? 3 gives, that's a 1, right? So 1 times 3 is 3. So I'm going to have a 1 here. And then I have 4 x's here, and this is 5 x's. So remember, this is x times x, 3, 4, 5. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I look at the difference between these, you see how this is all multiplied? I'm just missing this 1x here, right? So the difference here, if I want to get 3x to the 5th, I just need to multiply it by x, because 3x to the 4th times x gives me 3x to the 5th. And then for this next one, I say, what times 3 gives me 21? Well, that's 7. Okay, that's the 7 I wrote there. I made a mistake. And then here, x times x to the 4th times what gives me x to the 4th? It's just 1, so we don't need to write it. So this is this factor. So I'm going to hit pause there for a second in my work. Do you guys have any questions about what I just did? Are you guys feeling okay about this? Do you feel confident? Do you feel like you're lost? How do you guys feel about this? You can type that into chat. Good, Megan. I really appreciate that. Esteban, hey, okay is great. We don't have to be 100%, right? We just have to be there. Christian, you're feeling meh. Hey, and this is what I need to know, because if we're feeling like about this, then we need to practice it more. So I'm going to make a note of this, that we maybe need to do more of these in our warm-ups, okay? Okay, so so now that we've factored it, right? So that's the first part, factored. And we're going to spend a couple more days working on this. So now that I factored, now I have 2 terms. I have an a term and I have a b term, and they multiply to get 0. So I can say 3x to the 4th equals 0, or x plus 7 equals 0. And that's from the zero product property. I like to keep note of why I did things, okay? So the first step was factor. The second step was zero product property, okay? So now I'm going to go ahead and solve. So this is 3 times x to the 4th, so I'm going to go ahead and divide, okay? And then what's the only way where a number can multiply to get to 0? It's just 0. That's the only thing that can work, okay? And then here, it's plus 7, so I'm going to subtract 7. So I get x equals negative 7. Okay, so again here, I have 2 answers, okay? So hopefully you guys are somewhere on the spectrum of, oof, you know, like when you said it, it made sense, or you're like, hey, I totally got this, right? So hopefully you guys are somewhere in between there, and we'll have to get this, we'll have to keep working on this, okay? And if you encounter problems like this in your homework and you're having troubles, make sure, guys, you can email me, and you can meet me during my office hours, and we can just do a one-on-one Zoom where we work through the problems together. And then, boom, you get 100% on your assignment, which means you have 100% in my class. So no one yet from this class has used my office hours, but guys, if you want to get a better grade on your homework and you're getting stuck, just shoot me an email or drop into my office hours. Okay? Cool, guys. All All right, so let's get going into this lesson. So this is going to be a 2-day thing. So we're going to do we're in 7.5 and we're doing day 1. And what we're going to talk about today is how to factor a trinomial. Now a trinomial is a super fancy word for just 3 terms. Okay, you might recognize the word tri as the root word for 3. So it's just, we're going to factor things that have 3 terms. Now, this is going to be scary because it's new and there's going to be a lot of steps, but it's just a formula. So once you get the formula down, it's actually really easy because it's just a formula and you're just doing the process. So we're going to spend 2 days on this because it takes time to learn a new formula, to learn a new process. So bear with me here. We're going to make a lot of progress today, and I think you're going to feel pretty good about it. Okay, so factoring, okay, is we're going to be working backwards from when we first started chapter 7. And the first thing we did, I don't know if you guys can remember, is we multiplied, right? So factoring is the opposite of multiplying. Okay, so we're going to go backwards. So to start, let's go back to old school. Okay, so let's review multiplying. Okay, now make sure you guys pay attention because we're going to do it forwards, right? But then we have to do it backwards. And remember, whenever you do something backwards, it makes it way harder. So we got to make sure we understand it moving forward. So let's do this. So we're going to have the quantity of x plus 2, and we're going to have the quantity of x plus 8. Okay? So again, we want to make sure we know how to do this, okay? So to do this, we're going to have a box. Okay? Notice how my box is 2 by 2 because I have 2 terms here, and I have 2 terms here. Okay? So I'm going to write my terms on the outside. Now, notice here, so it doesn't matter where you put them. These right here, this right here is in factored form. Okay, so we're starting in factored form and we're going to get to standard form. What we're learning today is if we're in standard form, how do we get to factored form? So we're starting what we know. So to do this, let's check out some things. So in the upper left here, we have x times x, that's x squared, right? We call this our squared term. Okay, and then here we go 2 times x, that's 2x. And then here we have x times 8, that's 8x. And then down here we have 2 times 8, that's 16. We call this our constant. Because constant just means number. Okay, not hashtag, just number. Okay, so you guys remember doing this? Are we feeling okay? Okay, if not, you can type in chat and you can say, hey, what's going on? So we did all of this. So remember, we were in factored form. And then to get it to standard form, what we did is we wrote these all out. I took my squared term. And then I have these 2 terms. And then I had my constant, which is a fancy word for a number. Now, really important here, notice how these 2 terms, right, they can combine. They look alike. So I can go x squared, and then I have 2 plus 8 is 10. All right, so now I made this purple for a reason. This term, I want you to notice, do you guys see how it was adding these two? Okay, so we've already done this. Now I added some things. This is the pattern, this is the formula. Notice how the squared term is up here, the constant is down here, and these two numbers, they add. That's going to be the base for our lesson today, because what we're going to do now, we have this equation. We're going to start with this equation, and we're going to work backwards to factored form. Okay, so we started with factor form, right? We started here, and then we ended here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start here and end here. We're going to go backwards. So some key things to remember again. The squared term is always in the upper left. The constant's always in the bottom right. These two numbers are going to add to our middle number. Pretty neat. Okay, so you're like, crap, what's the big deal? Does anybody have any questions before we move on? Okay, people are feeling okay. All right, so this is the new stuff. So we're going to go from standard form to factored form. Okay, oops, I'm not on here. So I'm going to go from standard form to factored form. Okay? Now, what I mean by standard form is we're going to look something like this. And we're going to get it to factored form, which looks like something like this. And I just put squigglies because we don't know yet what those are going to be, okay? So we're going to go from this to this, okay? So let's work backwards. I'm going to use that same equation we just found. Now, we're doing this because I want you guys, we already know the answer for this, right? So this is in standard form. Factored form, we already know the answer, but I'm going to show you how to get there, okay? So we're going to do all our steps, but we're going to do them backwards. And we're going to add one new thing, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a box. Now, a cool little trick here. Do you guys see that this is a 2? I know that I'm going to have a 2 by 2. What? So the 2 right here tells us we're going to have a 2 by 2. Because remember, the squared term is going to be right here. So here, I'm going to write this. This is the squared term. This is my constant. Okay? So my squared term in here, my squared term is x squared. Okay? My constant is 16. So that's step 1. Here, I'm going to try to make a list of steps. 1. Make a box and put in, so make a box and put in your squared term and your constant. We want to make sure we have this down, guys, because if you can do this, uh-oh, I'm frozen. Hey, does anybody else see that I'm frozen? Really quickly, is anybody else frozen? Uh-oh, so some people are seeing that I'm frozen. I'm going to, just a second, guys. Oh, I'm not anymore. Oof. Hey, just remember, guys, if we have issues where my screen freezes or you have internet connections or I have internet connections, I'm always uploading these videos to YouTube, right? I'm a YouTube star. You can like and subscribe, right? And remember, to get these links, you go underneath Classworks, and I have a document that has all of these links, okay? I should have that up by 3 o'clock today, okay? So again, if you're having internet issues, I'm sorry, but this video will be up later if you do. I do drop the link. So really quickly, here, let's, I'm going to really remind you guys how to do this. Okay, so if you guys see here, I'm on Algebra 1, I'm in our class. So I go up to Classwork. Okay, I click Classwork, I go down to Resources, and it says Links to Class Videos. I click on this, it opens up a new tab, and it has links to all the YouTube videos. Okay, so you guys should be able to do that whenever you want, okay? All right, so let's get back to work because we got to get through this. Good question, so I appreciate that you guys are talking and sharing. I really appreciate that, and thanks for letting me know that you're having screen problems. Okay, so first we make a box, we put in the squared term and the constant term. So step 2, okay, we need to find the 2 missing boxes. Okay, so to find these 2 missing boxes, we're going to make a big X. Okay, so I'm going to do that right here. Okay, now I'm going to go back just a little bit. Now notice here, I want you guys to notice something. Look at these 2 numbers, okay, right here. So 2 plus 8 equals 10. Do you guys see how 2 plus 8 equals 10? Okay, and then what's 2 times 8? 2 times 8 is 16. What? So we're going to use that to work backwards. 2 plus 8 is 10, and 2 times 8 is 16. So what we're going to do is on the top here, we're going to write the product, which means multiply. And we're going to write the sum, which means add. Okay? Because the 2 missing add to the middle term. This is called the linear term. So up here, I'm going to add that. So this is the middle term or linear term. Okay, so these 2 numbers are going to add to that linear term, and they're going to multiply to get the constant. Okay, so right here, it's like a little mini game, right? So this is the main quest in our game, and then we have a little side quest that we need to do before we can finish the main quest. And the side quest is, we have to figure out, okay, these 2 numbers, we know that they're going to multiply to get the constant. Technically, I'm lying to you. Because our squared term is 1, so it doesn't really matter. But it's multiplied to get the constant times the squared term. So to do here, what we do is we go 16 times x squared. Okay, so this is the squared term times the constant. Okay, and then this one down here is just the linear term, or the middle one. Okay, so what's our middle term? our middle term is 10x. Okay, so this is the game. We have to find two numbers that multiply to 16x squared and add to 10x. So to do this, we might make a list, and we might say, what multiplies to get 16? Okay, so in the chat, can you guys tell me what multiplies to get 16? What are two numbers that multiply to get 16? Okay, so I have 2 times 8. Is there another one? What about 8 times 2? That seems silly, but when we get to negatives, that's going to be very important. So 2 times 8. Is there another one, guys, that gets 16? What times what gives me 16? 4 and 4. Excellent. Okay, so we've made a list of things that multiply to get to 16. So our answer can only be one of these. So when we're looking at this, so we have things that multiply to get 16. What about 16 and 1? Right, 16 and 1? So we have all these different ways to get, but then only one of these is going to work because only one of them is going to add up to 10. So which one of these add up to 10? So out of this list, which one of these add up to 10? You can type it in chat. Yeah, 2 and 8. So these two right here, they add to 10. So now notice these are both the same because they're both positive. Now if we were dealing with negative numbers, then we'd have an issue. But we're not dealing with negatives yet, so we don't have to worry about it. Okay? So I'm going to put them here, and it doesn't matter where I put them. So I'm going to say 2x and 8x, because 2x times 8x is 16x squared, and 2x plus 8x is 10x. Okay? So check this out. We did all of this, right? We did all of this to find these. So step 3. Plug found terms into the box. Okay, so I'm going to go up here. So I'm going to take my found terms, so the 2x and the 8x, and I'm going to plug it in here. And again, it doesn't matter where you put them. I can put 2x here, or I can put 8x here. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to go 2x and 8x. Again, order doesn't matter. Where I put it doesn't matter. Okay? And you might want to write that in your notes. You might say, where does not matter. Okay? All right. So then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to factor out each row and column. So we're going to factor out each row and column. And this is what I mean by this. You're going to take your hand and you're going to cover up that bottom row. So now, what is the greatest common factor in this top row? Write it into chat. What is the greatest common factor of these two things right here? Write it into chat. What can I factor out? What do these have in common? Okay, so when I'm looking, right, so this is a 1, this is 2 x's, and this is an 8, and this is an x, and we have to figure out what they have in common. So I have one private comment. I need more people. You can send it privately, guys, or you can send it all class. If you send it privately, only I can see it. So what do they have? I'm trying to get more than one person sending me a comment. I need more people to send me what they think. What do these have in common? And the person who just sent me a comment, you're on the you got it. You're on the right track. Geez, guys, if you aren't participating, this is bad. This is really bad. All right, so yeah, it's the x. Absolutely. So this has two x's. This has one x. I can pull out the x. Okay, and I'm going to write that on the outside. Okay, so this is the GCF for this column. Okay, so now, for this row. Now I'm going to do it for this column. Okay, well, technically, you only need to do it for that one. Because at this point, if you don't like factoring, okay, so if you're someone who doesn't like factoring, now it's just a multiplication table. What times x gives me x squared? Can you type it into chat? What times x gives me x squared? So in chat, type what times x gives me x squared? So I need people to, in chat, type what times x gives me x squared? X times what? What am I going to write here? X times what gives me x squared? So it's only your time that we're wasting if we don't type it in, guys. Yes, that's it. It's x times x. So we have x times x is x squared. Then I can go here and be like, what times x gives me 8x, right? So then that would be 8. 8 times x gives me 8x. And then here, I'm going to have what times x gives me 2x? It's going to be 2. And then it's going to be 2 times 8. Is 2 times 8 16? Oh, cool. So we're good to go. Well, hey, guys. And you can double check for me. Are these our factors? Yeah. So just the last step. What is outside the box? What is outside the box is our factors. So the answer is x plus 8 times x plus 2. All right, now that took a long time. So let's try to do a couple that are a little bit faster. Okay, so I'm going to show you one more that's a little bit faster, and then I'm going to have you guys try one on your own. Okay, so let's do this again. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to factor. So this is example 1. We're going to factor. Let's do one that's similar. X plus 2 and x plus 7. Okay. All right. Can I make this problem more interesting? Let's make this problem more interesting. I'm going to factor x minus 2 and x plus 7. So we have a negative now. Okay. So to do this, let's go through the steps. So first, I'm going to draw a box. Shoot. No. Guys. It's Friday, isn't it? All right. Let's factor this one. Let's try this. Okay. So we're going to use x squared plus 10x plus 16. I'm so sorry. We're going to factor this one. Sorry for the mistakes. Okay? So we're going to factor x squared plus 10x plus 16. So in doing this, the first thing I'm going to do is I make my box. Okay? So I've made my box, and then I'm going to take my squared term and put it here. I'm going to take my constant term and put it here. Okay? So I have my squared term and my constant term. And then I'm going to play a mini game to find these two. I'm going to have my product, which I call P, and my sum, which I call S. So this is my product and my sum. To get my product, I'm going to take these two numbers and multiply them. So I get 16x squared. And that makes sense. Product, I'm going to multiply. For my sum, I'm going to take my linear term. Okay? So now I have this mini game here. I'm looking for what multiplies to get 16 and adds to 10. So the first thing I'm going to say is, what multiplies to get 16? Well, luckily for us, right, didn't we have 16 last time? Oh my gosh, did I just pick the same problem? Okay, all right, I did. Let's try this again. Okay, we're going to factor x squared minus 8x plus 12. I'm so sorry, guys. That was a huge mistake. No one called me on it. All right, so I'm going to have a box. I'm going to have my squared term. I'm going to have my constant term. To find these two, I'm going to have a mini game where I have the product and I have the sum. The product is these two being multiplied, so 12x squared, and the sum is going to be my linear term. So see how there's a negative here? I have to write negative x. So things are going to get interesting now. So first, I'm going to think of how can I multiply to get to 12? So I might have 1 times 12. I might have 2 times 6. I might have 3 times 4. Okay. And I think that's it. Okay. So these are all the ways I can multiply to 12. Okay. So now this comes the hard part. We have to pick some numbers that when they're added are negative. So let's think about that. If this is negative, doesn't one of these numbers have to be negative? In fact, so this is really tricky, right? They have to add to a negative, but they multiply to a positive. So we just have to remember, I like this triangle. There's more than one way to get to a positive. If I have a negative times a negative, I get a positive. So I think all of these have to be negative. Right? Because that's the only way I'm going to get a negative addition. So which one of these adds up to negative 8? Okay, well, negative 2 plus negative 6 adds to negative 8. Okay, so they still multiply to 12 because they're both negative, but this one adds to negative 8. So again, it doesn't matter where I put them. I have negative 6x and negative 2x. These are my missing numbers. Okay, that's that little mini game. Okay, some people are going to get frustrated with this mini game, but once you get a good practice on it, it's going to be good. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to put these over here. It doesn't matter where they go. So I might have negative 6x and negative 2x. Then I'm going to factor. So I like to do this top row. It's usually the easiest. I say, hey, we're going to look at this. What do they have in common? So this has 2 x's. This has a negative 2 and an x. So they have an x in common. Once you get that first one, you can just multiply. So to get this top box, what times x gives me x squared? X does. What times x gives me negative 2x? Negative 2. What times x gives me negative 6x? Negative 6. And then we double check our work. Negative 2 times negative 6 is 12. Okay? And that's our answer. So I just go ahead and go x minus 2 and x minus 6. Okay? And that's that. Hey guys, we only have a minute now, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do one more of these before you guys leave so that you have another example to take a look at. So if you can stick around, you should. Okay? So my last example that I'm going to do is x squared plus 4x minus 21. Okay? So I'm going to factor this. So to factor this, I'm going to have a box. I'm going to put my squared term here. I'm going to put my, now do you see how it's negative? I'm going to put my constant here. I go to a mini game where I have the product and the sum. I multiply these two numbers to get my product. For my sum, I go with my linear term. So now we make a game. So what multiplies to 21? Well, I have 21 and 1. I have 7 and 3. And I think that's it. I could be wrong. I think I am wrong. Am I wrong? Well, let's take a look. So I have 7 and 3. Now it's negative, which means only one of these is negative, right? If we take a look at this triangle, right? To get a negative, one of them has to be positive. So that means I take a look at this. See how this is positive? That means the bigger number has to be positive. So that means this one, right? Because if I'm adding and I get a positive number, the bigger number has to be positive. So let's check this. What's 7 minus 3? Okay, 7 minus 3 equals 4. So I'm going to have 7x and negative 3x. So let's double check these. 7 times negative 3 is negative 21. 7 minus 3 is 4. So I'm going to go ahead and put these into my box. It doesn't matter where you put them. And then to factor them out, again, I just do the top row. They have an x in common. X times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. X times 7 is 7x. And then double check here. So then my answer is this. All right, guys. So that takes us to 10:50. Now we're out at, I had the wrong time. We're out at 11, aren't we? I got to double check here. Yeah, we're out at 11. So this gives us time for you guys to try one on your own. Okay? So let me get a good problem for you to do on your own really quickly here. Okay? So try on your own. Okay, and here is one for you guys. I want you to factor x squared minus 4x plus 3. Okay, and since this takes quite a bit of time, I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes. Thank you, Megan. I appreciate it. Jesus, if you're talking about the last one, I can put it up in just a second. Yes, it will be on YouTube. And you can always email me, and you can always come to my office hours. Or if you have questions now, you can ask me a question. That's why we're doing this in class, and it's not just a YouTube video. Right? I'm better than YouTube. I'm like live streaming this, right? So you guys can ask questions right now if you need. All right. Hey, do you guys need a little bit more time? If you need a little bit more time, can you just send me a private chat? Does anybody need a little bit more time? You can just send me a private chat. Okay. I'm going to give you guys one more minute. All right. So, sorry guys, classes go by super fast. Again, if you need more help with this, you should feel free to stop by my office hours. There's a lot more time in our office hours that we can work on this and we can talk to each other and work on this. So what are we going to do first? First, we're going to make a box. Okay, so we do that first. So once I have the box, right, I have my squared term. I have my linear term. And I have my constant. Right? So I'm going to put my squared term in the upper left. I'm going to put my constant in the bottom right. Okay? So that's the first step. So you make a box and you put your squared term and your constant. Then we're going to play a mini game, right? And the mini game is probably the hardest part. Okay? So I'm going to have my product and my sum. So to get my product, I'm going to multiply these two. So I'm going to have 3x squared. Okay? So my product is going to be this times this. Then my linear term is going to be negative 4x. Okay, and that's my sum. So I need to figure out, how do I multiply to get 3? So how do I multiply to get 3? Well, 3 is prime, so it's just 1 and 3, or 3 times 1. Okay, so when looking at this, I have to get negative 4. So it's a negative sum and a positive multiplication. So if I take a look at this, remember, to get a positive multiplication, it can be 2 positives, but couldn't it also be 2 negatives, right? So to do this, if these were both negative, think about this, negative 1 times negative 3, doesn't that equal negative 4? And it multiplies to 3, right? Because a negative times a negative is a positive. So I'm going to have negative x, right? That's just negative 1x. And I'm going to have negative 3x. And hopefully, if you guys have a question, you could just type in chat like, hey, can you explain this? Are you guys doing okay with this? We doing okay? All right, perfect. I just want to double check. So now I'm going to plug these in. It doesn't matter where. Hey, and I get some people are saying like kinda or like I'm almost there. Perfect. So we're just going to have to keep practicing and we'll get there. We're going to spend 2 days on this. So I'm going to take these. I'm going to put this over here. It doesn't matter where I put it. Okay. So again, I'm just going to look at this. It's easiest just to look at this top one. So if I look at this top one, what do they have in common? Gosh, I'm starting to see a pattern, right? When this number is 1, I think this is almost always going to be x, right? So we're seeing a pattern when this number isn't 1. I mean, where it is 1. So x times what gives me x squared? Well, I have x times x. X times what gives me negative 3x? Negative 3. And then x times what gives me negative x? Ooh, that's negative 1. And then let's double check. Negative 1 times negative 3 is positive 3. Oh, that feels good. And just as class ends, I get x times 3 times x minus 1. Okay, so this is the same as this, just in factored form. Okay, and your homework, guys, is going to be practicing doing this. So if you need help, if you're getting confused, if you're like, man, I think I have it, but I need help getting started, shoot me an email, drop by my office hours on Zoom, and I can help you out. But please, guys, ask for help. I'd love to help you. I'm available, and I want to make sure you guys get this, okay? So with that said, it is 11 o'clock, so if you need to take off, you can do that. If you want to stay around and ask for help, you can do that as well. Remember that advisory is after this. So you're going to want to go to advisory in just a little bit. So if you're taking off, goodbye. If you want to stay, you can. Happy Friday, guys. I hope you have a good weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Take care. If you need help, please let me know. Yeah, take care, guys. Yeah, have a good weekend too. I appreciate you saying that. Take care, man. My homies that are left, is there anything I can do to help you out? So Josh, Kane, Rebecca?